Well, good morning. So I'm Anita Adkins. I work with Westminster Canterbury Foundation, and we are part of the Resource Development Division. So basically, we're made up of the Public Relations Department and the Foundation. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about both of those areas so you'll know what we do and what you can come to us for if you ever have questions. So I'll start with public relations. There's a lot of things that happen here every single week, and so we try to capture as much of that as we can and let everybody know what's going on. So I'll pass this around. Once a week, we have what's called the Westminster Canterbury Tales, and that's our resident newsletter, and it takes about 20, you can pass it. It takes about 20 to 24 pages every single week to capture what goes on here. So it has all the latest events, news about work that's going on around campus, all kinds of stuff. So I definitely encourage you to read this. It's copies like this are around campus. It's also emailed to everyone, and it's available on the intranet, so you can always check that out. Then once a month, we have what's called the In Touch newsletter, and that's for us as staff. So it has events for staff, any training that's coming up for us. So you'll definitely want to read that in your email or on the intranet, because that's really important for us. Then a few times a year, we have our LAMP newsletter. So you can take a look at that. And we try to feature one area in each issue. This one just came out, and it has stories about what our donors made possible in 2017. So we send this to our residents, their family members, our donors, and even people who are on our wait list, so that they can get a sense of what it's like to be a part of Westminster Canterbury and what the different things are going on around here. So you'll see stacks of those around campus. They're kind of folded up, so anytime you see that, feel free to pick it up and read what we've featured that time. And then our biggest publication every year is our annual report, and it's basically like a year in the life of Westminster Canterbury. So it has stories about what our donors made possible, things that our volunteers have done, and all kinds of stats from every department on campus. So my favorite part is this very last page. We're in the middle of our newest edition, but this is from 2016, and it's 2016 by the numbers. So just to give you an idea, in 2016, we served 566,000 meals. Our transportation department gave 12,740 rides to appointments or events. And my personal favorite, Westminster Canterbury did 617,000 pounds of laundry. So there are all kinds of different things that go into making this place run. So take a look at that. So it's just a great way to get a sense of everything that happens on campus each year. So hopefully, as you're looking at these, you see that they have a common look, a common fonts, colors, styles, and all of that is part of our corporate branding, which you can find our brand and style guide on the employee intranet under corporate branding. And that has guidelines for how we communicate with our residents or anybody that we need to talk with. So to give you an idea of what corporate branding is, can anybody tell me what the tagline for Nike is? Just do it. So anytime you see the check mark or you see just do it, you know it's Nike, whether or not you see that word or not. Westminster Canterbury's tagline is live life well. So you'll see that sometimes with our logo. There's certain ways we use it, certain ways we don't, but it's part of our identity and who we are. So another question, if I go to the grocery store and buy a can of Coca-Cola, what color will it be? Red. And then if I go to a gas station and I buy a can of Coca-Cola, will it be the same shade of red or something different? Well, hopefully it'll be the same shade, so that anywhere you go in the world, if you get a can of Coke, it looks the same and you know that you're getting that same product. So that's also part of our look, is that we have certain fonts and colors that we use. So I say all of that just so that you know that on our intranet, we have lots of templates for you. If you ever need to make a flyer, or if you come upon something and you see that it needs an out of order sign, you can go right to the intranet and print it out so that everything looks really professional, and our residents and anybody who's visiting campus know that that came from Westminster Canterbury staff and not just, from someone writing us something on a piece of paper and sticking it up there. So all of those resources are available, and you can feel free to reach out to us if you ever have questions or need help with those kinds of things. In addition to all this printed material, we also have a Facebook page and a website. We do a weekly blog. We have a LinkedIn page, and we just created a group on Facebook for staff specifically. So there's lots of ways that you can stay connected and see the different things that are going on. And then we also have our in-house television station, TV 970, where we put a lot of information and events, and a resident intranet where they can get all of this material digitally. So there's a lot of ways that we communicate around here. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about what the foundation does. So we raise money, and we have our team in resource development is 7 people, plus a 24 member volunteer board for our foundation. And here you can see our mission and vision. So our vision is that we will inspire generosity, because there's a lot of things at Westminster Canterbury that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for very generous donors. And then this is our mission, which basically boils down to 2 things. Everything that we raise money for, is for 2 purposes: to ensure the best life possible for our residents, and to cultivate leadership in senior living. So everything I'm going to tell you about fits one of those 2 things. So Westminster Canterbury is a not-for-profit, and the foundation is a separate not-for-profit that was set up for the purpose of raising funds for many different purposes on our campus. And so some people might have the perception that Westminster Canterbury is a place where a lot of wealthy people live, which is true to an extent, but a huge part of who we are is what we call our fellowship program. So there's a number of people, a number of seniors in need who are able to live at Westminster Canterbury thanks to the fellowship program. So every year we have 110 seniors in need who get support with housing, meals, medical expenses, and then they also have access to all of the vital living that Westminster Canterbury has to offer. So have any of you ever worked at a for-profit nursing home before? No? Well, if a resident's at a for-profit nursing home and they run out of money, what do you think happens? You could get kicked out. They could be asked to leave. If there's not a Medicaid bed available to cover their expenses, then they wouldn't have options and they'd have to go somewhere else, which is a really scary thing to think about. If you are ill, that you would have to try to find somewhere else to go. If you are at a for-profit assisted living facility, there is no federal program like Medicaid to cover your expenses, so you wouldn't have any options and you could be asked to leave. So most not-for-profit communities have something set up for existing residents if they run out of money. And that's one of the things that we promise our residents. They'll never be asked to leave due to an inability to pay through no fault of their own. So if they outlive their resources, they know that they have a safe place to stay. And then we also bring in about 90% of that 110 people who need support from the very beginning. So to give you a couple of examples, we had one resident who moved in when the community opened in the 70s, and she lived here for over 30 years. But she lived to be 104 years old. And I don't know about you all, but I'm not necessarily planning my retirement as if I'm going to live quite that long. So she had been here for longer than anywhere else in her entire life, but she just ran out of money in the last year and a half. And at that point, she was sick, and she was living in our Parsons Health Center. So luckily the fellowship program was there to help cover her expenses so that she could stay in this place that she'd called home for so long. We had another gentleman who was very active volunteering out in the community. He was very active on campus, and he started to lose his hearing, which is very isolating if you can't hear your friends across the dinner table, or you can't go to a lecture and hear what's going on in the theater, but he couldn't afford hearing aids. So luckily the fellowship program was there thanks to very generous donors, and so it covered about 75% of the cost of those hearing aids, and then he was able to pay the other 25% so he could get the hearing aids and still be able to do the things that meant so much to him, and it really improved his quality of life. So fellowship is a huge part of who Westminster Canterbury is. We have the biggest financial aid program of its kind for a single site retirement community in the entire country. So it's a huge part of who we are and something we can be really proud of, that we're able to help people in that way. But then there's a number of other programs that benefit residents, thanks to a lot of very generous donors. So in our healthcare center, we have a lot of training for our staff who are helping our residents who, really need the most help. So we have a clinical educator devoted to our staff there. We have a really detailed orientation program called a preceptor program, where new staff are paired with experienced staff so they can learn the best ways to care for our residents. And then for our residents, we have a lot of music, art, and horticulture therapies, as well as exercise therapies that take place right on the floor in Parsons Health Center and in our memory support areas in Monticello and the Gables. And so that really helps people connect with activities that they've done their whole life, and connect with memories and experiences that make a really big difference for them and their quality of life. And we're able to offer more of those programs than most communities like ours, thanks to very generous gifts from people. Our wellness programs, we have a lot going on in wellness, but what donors help us do is bring in additional classes so we can test new things and make sure we're doing the right kinds of classes for our residents. So last year we had a ballroom dancing series, we did something called laughter yoga, we have a balance series that helps people really exercise and improve their balance, which is a big part of staying healthy and maintaining your quality of life. And so a lot of those things are supported by the foundation, as well as brain fitness. We have something called DACM. You'll see the kiosks around campus where residents do like 15 to 20 minutes a few times a week, and it helps them exercise their memories and kind of delay the onset of dementia. Also in our memory support areas, I don't know if Lynn mentioned that we have a memory support chaplain who's really devoted to our residents and caregivers and family members who are dealing with dementia, and offers them a lot of spiritual support. And that position is supported by gifts to the foundation. Then I think you guys took a tour yesterday, right? No? Oh, today. Well, on the tour, you will go by our theater. And so 100% of the performances in that space are made possible by donations. So our residents don't buy tickets. They're able to just sign up, and people from all across campus can come together in this one space and enjoy performances together. So it's this wonderful sense of community, and all of those performances are made possible by donors, which is a very unique thing for a community like ours. Then in our art studio, some of the instructor and materials fees are also made possible through the foundation. And in pastoral care, we have a lot of lectures and interns that come through thanks to donations. Then there are programs that benefit us as employees as well. So you can see the Child Development Center out the window here. And we were able to redo the playground a couple of years ago thanks to a donor. But then also we have financial aid for staff, for the children of staff to go to the Child Development Center. So the corporation offers a benefit to all of us that offers a discount. And then the foundation is able to offer an additional need-based amount of financial support that you can apply for a couple of times a year. That's based on the availability of funds, but we'll publicize that when those opportunities become available. And our biggest donor to that program, you might wonder who would be interested in a child development center. Well, for us, it was actually a resident, and this resident didn't have children or even grandchildren who could benefit from our center, but they had really gotten to know their housekeeper very well and knew what a struggle it was for her to afford childcare, because it's very expensive anywhere you go. But it meant a lot to her to be able to have her children downstairs every day while she was working. And so that inspired this donor to give to this program, and they gave over $600,000 during their lifetime. So you never know how your interactions with people will make a big difference in their life and might inspire them to want to give back in lots of different ways. And then also we have a lot of workforce development programs. So there are scholarships available for us as staff. Those come around twice a year, and all of that information is available on the internet. You can apply if you go back to school, maybe you want to, achieve a higher level of nursing or get a degree. If you want to go to conferences or just to a workshop, there are opportunities available for you to do that and apply for reimbursement. So definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. Then we also have a professional school of learning that offers staff training every single year for every staff member. We have leadership programs, and lots of other opportunities for learning. And all of that's made possible by donors to the foundation. And we're also working on some opportunities for staff to volunteer together. So why do people give to the foundation? They believe in our mission. All of these things that I've been talking about, many people are grateful for those. Maybe they had a family member who was helped by fellowship and they want to give back for as long as they're able. And you are an essential part of our team. We would never ask you to ask someone for money, but your interactions every single day make a big difference in people's lives. So I'm going to tell you one last quick story. We had a woman who moved into the tower in the 90s, and she was only there for a short time before she became ill and moved to Parsons Health Center. So the staff there took great care of her, and then she passed away after a short time. So if we fast forward 20 years, her son reached out to the foundation, and no one on the staff in the foundation had ever met his mother. We'd never had a chance to meet him, but he was so inspired by the people who took care of his mother every single day that he left a very generous gift to the foundation in his will that continues to make a big difference in the lives of people at Westminster Canterbury today. So you'll just never know how much your interactions mean to someone and what that might mean that day or even in the future. So just know you have that opportunity every day. So I hope that you guys will enjoy working here as much as I have. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. And I have a brochure with some additional stories about the things I told you about that I'm going to leave with you. But do you have any questions for me?